Hello there, welcome to the Slay with Sam podcast, where I bring you people who are experts in what they do in order to add value to you, help you achieve your goals, and become the best possible version of yourself. On today's episode, I have Jason Ackerman from OwnYourEating.com, and guys, this interview was so great. He's awesome, so knowledgeable, and I cannot wait for you to see what he has to share with you. We talk all things gluten, intermittent fasting, and how you can incorporate donuts into your diet and still lose weight. Count me in. Check it out. Okay, cool. So why don't you tell me a little bit about what Own Your Eating is and how that started?
Well, Own Your Eating is basically two people, Roz and myself, and now a bigger team. We've brought on a handful of coaches that we really love and admire, and what we do is help people gain control of their eating. So for many of us, we've been told all of our lives information about food and what's right and what's wrong, and for most of us that's been not true. Turns out my mom doesn't know a whole lot about what's good for you. So about a little over a year ago now, Roz and I started our company, Own Your Eating, and we kicked it off with a countrywide road trip where we traveled the country giving seminars, 3-4 seminars a week, and teaching people about how to eat foods that they enjoy but actually still lose weight.
That's awesome, and I think that's everybody's ideal way of eating too, is eating foods they enjoy and still lose weight. So I feel like everybody was just like, whoever is listening to this right now, they're like, okay, I want that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, people sometimes hear that and they're like, oh, that's not true, or sure, that works for them. Like maybe they see pictures of us and yeah, now we're lean and, we look how we'd like to look, but it wasn't always that way. And we're like so many people where we chased after the wrong diets and we weren't always happy with how we looked and what we saw in the mirror. So this truly works for everyone. We've helped thousands of people now. So if you are listening and you're like, no, they don't understand me, I'm a special, unique snowflake. You're not. You're just a normal person.
You're not special. You're normal. That's awesome. So you just said, people might look at you and they might say, oh, it's easy for you or whatever it might be. What is your story? What kind of brought you to this whole nutrition, working out, and even to Own Your Eating?
Well, I grew up very unathletic, I should say, would be the right word. I was forced into things like Little League. When you're in New York, like Little League baseball and soccer, what all boys go to do. So I did that. And then when I got to high school, my science teacher looked at me and he said, hey, I'm going to need you to join the wrestling team. And I had, never done anything like that. And I was like, all right. And went home. I said, Mom, can I join the wrestling team? And she said, no. But he called her up, convinced her to let me join because turns out it wasn't because of my muscular physique. It was because I was actually small. And he was also the wrestling coach and he needed someone for the smallest weight class. So that was really my start into this fitness world. After the first season when I just got my butt whooped, every day, I decided I need to do something about it if I'm going to continue with this. And my mom took me to the gym and I joined the gym and fell in love with that and bodybuilding. And, I did graduate high school, went off to college and was like, all right, I'll get a real job. But I always kept having these part-time jobs at the gym and never really made the jump into the real world. And in 2007, I found CrossFit and opened an affiliate, a CrossFit affiliate. So that was kind of like, all right, I can do this forever. Because before that, it was like barely getting by, chasing $15 here and $10 there, training people, teaching classes. And when I opened my first CrossFit gym, I was like, okay, this can be a real job. And with CrossFit, you wind up helping people not just with their fitness, but also their nutrition. So I learned a lot along the way. And when I decided to uproot and move to Florida, I needed to focus more on something I can do virtually. And that's where the nutrition came into play.
Yeah, that's really cool. So, was it hard to gonna go off track for a second. Was it hard to make the transition from like working a real job to doing what you're doing now?
I'd say no, because I don't think I've ever had a real job.
Yeah.
It was always, before CrossFit. So I graduated college in 2000. And for those 7 years, it was really just training people and teaching, aerobic type classes.
I see.
But it wasn't ever a normal schedule. I ran a gym here and there, but it was always bouncing around and just living paycheck to paycheck, if you will. And then when I decided to open the CrossFit gym, it again never felt like a real job. When you own your own business and you do your own thing, it's like you don't have a boss, but you have a billion bosses, because of all of your clients are your bosses.
Yep.
So it was a little bit of a transition in the sense that I no longer had a home base, and I work from home. And I was doing this prior to meeting Roz, but she's obviously a vital asset to the team now. But working out of your home it's a unique career, but I wouldn't trade it.
Yeah, that's so cool. So, on your eating, you call it the flexible eating, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yes.
love that. And so I love the idea of that, like we talked about earlier. My question for you is, when people hear so many different things, they think like, oh, it's just another diet, right? And so what is it about dieting that people tend to have such a hard time sticking to it, or jumping to every single different one, trying to find what works for them? What is it about dieting that is hard to stick to, and what is it about flexible eating that is easy to stick to?
Phenomenal question. I think it's really twofold. One, the hard part about sticking to diets is just they're unrealistic.
Mm-hmm.
Most diets are, it's almost like a get rich quick scheme, but for eating. Lose weight quick.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, and for so many people that just means great. You're gonna lose weight. I can have even someone like you, lean, lose 10 pounds in 2 days. I grew up wrestling, like I said, and I would lose 20 pounds in a weekend to make weight. But I never once thought to myself, wow, I'm skinnier and healthier. It was okay, I need the scale to say this.
Right.
And for so many people, the scale means a lot. So like, well, I'm lighter. I'm like, if you're losing weight that fast, it's almost always just water. And worst case scenario, it's water and muscle, which we don't want to lose. Right? So these diets that are unsustainable, because if someone's listening right now and I said, hey, you have to start your diet right now or tomorrow, immediately their mind goes to, okay, what can't I eat? What foods am I going to give up? I can't have donuts. I can't have pizza. I can't have mom's, baked ziti. And the diet is setting you up for failure if they're saying, hey, that's right, you can never have this.
Right.
And then the other reason is people do want that quick success. They get it, and then they're like, great, I got it. Now what? And then they go right back to their old tendencies.
Right.
So what we do differently is kind of flip both of those around. This is not fast. I had a phone call with a client yesterday in tears, and she's like, I'm only losing 2 pounds a week. And I'm like, that's exactly what I want you to lose.
Right.
If you're losing more than that, like I said, it's not real weight. And part of it is the obsession with the scale. We all want the scale to read a certain number, and we think that's what it should be. But I personally have had this experience in a number of clients where the scale never gets to where you want it, but your body in the mirror does.
Right.
And I don't care if I weigh 140 or 240, if I look how I want to look and I feel how I want to feel.
Yeah, and that's so true. I'll never forget the time whenever I was in high school, and I gained like, I think I was, for me, which was a lot. I'm only 5'1", so I was at like 118 of pure weight gain. And for a while, I never let myself get over 110. So going to 118 was crazy for me. And then I started working out, and I'll never forget it. I lost all my weight, and I didn't feel good. It wasn't like a healthy weight loss. And then I started to eat healthier, and I started to work out. And I was following a rigid plan for like a month, and I felt so, so, so great. And I'm like, oh, well, let's see what I weigh, because I didn't weigh myself for the whole month. And I go back on the scale, and it said 118 again. And I was like, and it was an instant flux of emotions of like, I need to lose weight. Even though I looked better than I ever have, felt better than I ever did, that number was like so discouraging to me. And I actually did a side by side, like 118 versus 118, and it was night and day. So I think that's so true. You know, the number on the scale, we get so attached to it, but it really doesn't mean anything.
You know, you nailed it. And we work with a lot of people that whether they do CrossFit or just work out regularly, when they start eating in the way that we teach them, it's oftentimes more food and it's almost always more protein. And because of that, their body actually puts on muscle.
Right.
So we always tell people, you know, if you're listening right now and you're like, okay, I'm going to try to start this, and you can start it for free. You know, we have tons of information out there where you can easily get started. At least take yourself a before picture and measurements.
Yes.
You know, and the easiest measurement I tell people to take is go into their closet and try on that pair of jeans that you're afraid to try on. Because if they're too tight right now, when they fit, it doesn't matter what you weigh. You know, so like you did, you had this before picture and then the after picture, and it's true. At 118 can look very different.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that was what happened too. I put on that pair of pants and I'm like, oh my gosh, it does not fit like I wanted to. And then I put it back on. I'm like, I feel so good. But yeah, that is crazy. So that kind of leads me right into my next question, just about the emotional attachment to scale, but more about how much of our emotion or of our eating is emotional.
You know, obviously that's different for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, food is that thing where it's like, hey, there's a death in the family, let's eat. But then it's also like, hey, we just had a baby, let's eat.
Right.
Right? So food can be this thing that we use to console ourselves, but then this thing that we use to celebrate. And I think it's different for everyone. And I don't think we can truly ever eliminate that. But I think the more you understand how much food you need, the less you rely on that emotional eating. You know, and I think, like you said earlier, like I still fall back on old habits and old beliefs, and I'm 40 years old, and I've been doing this a long time, but those old habits are ingrained. I think the ones that we learn, you know, in our teens are just more influential on us. Like, yeah, there are times I wake up and step on the scale, and I'm like, damn, I need to go for a run, and I need to cut carbs out.
Right.
You know, and the only difference is that doesn't last, and I never implement it. But it's the same thing with emotions. Like when I get stressed, it's like, okay, I need to eat. But then for me, it's very black and white. I look at my phone. I'm like, hey, here's what I need to eat today. Sure, you want some Oreos. Go drown yourself in Oreos. But just understand, you can't do that again later. And it's going to change what you get to eat the rest of the day.
Yeah.
So it's different. And I think it gets better. I think we have a lot of people that, you know, the first step is like, damn, I did it. I'm like, hey, you know what? You recognized it. Good for you. Now, next time, let's recognize it before you do it.
Yeah, and I love what you just said, because that was my next question, is because I agree, you know, you want to be able to eat Oreos if you want Oreos. But like you said, it's like, okay, if you're going to drown yourself in Oreos right now, you're not going to do that again later. And so I guess the question for you is, how do you eat this stuff, junk food, you know, and not feel guilty about it?
Well, the not feeling guilty is easy for me because I know the success of the program. You know, and maybe I need to make that clear. You know, for those listening, if you have no idea what we're talking about, basically everybody gets a set of macronutrients, protein, carbs, and fats, based on your goal weight and based on how much activity you do, whether it's working out or you're on your feet all day as a teacher or a nurse. So based on that, you get a certain amount of calories. Your calories come from macronutrients. For me, I don't feel guilty because so long as I eat the right amount of macronutrients, I know I did the right thing for my body. So it's super simple from that perspective, where it's just like, hey, this is how much fuel you need. Don't go over.
Right. So with that being said, is there, I mean, is there a difference in the value of calories? You know, so like if you're eating, if you have a certain amount of macronutrients that you need per day, is it more beneficial to, is there a balance, or just nutritional dense food versus junk food?
Nutritional dense food versus junk food. Um, People say, well, these are good carbs, these are bad carbs, or this is good and this is bad. And the truth is, carbs are carbs, fats are fats. At the end of the day, they break down to the same thing to be used in our body. How fast they break down and how many vitamins and minerals they have are different. So the example I use often is broccoli and donuts. Your average donut, we're in Naples. If you go to Trackside Donuts in Bonita,
Yep.
okay, and you get a glazed donut, and it's probably about 30 grams of carbohydrates. All right. So one glazed donut. Now, anyone listening knows like one glazed donut is not a lot. We want more than one. But let's say you have just one. And now you say, well, instead of that glazed donut, I'm going to try to eat 30 grams of carbs from broccoli. That's a lot of broccoli. Cups and cups of broccoli on your plate, probably more than anyone is able to eat without feeling sick.
Right.
So the difference is how much food you're getting. And what we recommend is you have to have balance. If you're only eating broccoli, you're going to go crazy one day and have too many donuts.
Oh, for sure.
But if you're only eating donuts, we know that you're not giving your body proper nutrition.
Right.
So we use the 80-20 approach. 80% of your food should be good quality food that we don't have to, hey, is this good for me or not? We know it. Broccoli, fruits, vegetables. But then 20% has to be food that you enjoy and makes this feel like it's a long-term sustainable lifestyle that you can do again tomorrow.
And that makes so much sense. And I think that really simplifies it all. Just make 80% of what you eat better for you food, and then you can go and enjoy whatever else you want to have. So,
and I think, well, because of that, we've seen like kind of this like circle of life with flexible eaters that we work with, and it becomes at first like, oh my God, this is amazing. I can eat cinnamon toast crunch and mac and cheese and lose weight. And we're like, yeah, go for it. Do that. And then 3 months in, they're like, wow, I'm losing weight. This is incredible. Maybe I should eat better quality foods. And we tell them to do that. And, and that's where the win really comes from. Like, now they understand that they can eat these foods without feeling guilty. They can go out to social events. And if they eat a slice of pizza, it's not a big deal. It's just, hey, where does that fit in your day? Cool. Now make the appropriate adjustment to the rest of your food.
And that makes so much sense, because I remember whenever I first started working out, and I was like, all right. And I mean, I was kind of like a skinny fat. I didn't have to lose weight, but I just started working out. And I was like, if I'm going to work out, I'm going to eat whatever I want. Like, I'm going to eat, I don't care what it is. If I'm going to do all of this, I'm going to eat whatever I want. And once I started to work out, I'm like, wow, I feel so much better. And so I want to eat better. I noticed the difference in like my workouts whenever I was eating healthier, and how my energy levels and how I felt. And it went hand in hand. And so I love that you said, you people start out and they're like, because no one wants to feel deprived. And like you said, whenever you get into this lifestyle and this journey, the first thing you think about is everything that I can't have or that I have to let go of, instead of everything you're going to gain is an energy and all of that. And so, yeah, I think that's a really good introduction of it, is to say like, hey, you can lose weight and still have X, Y, and Z. And then the individual kind of finds that on their own, what works for them as far as nutrition and eating and the balance of that too.
Absolutely.
I think that's really cool. All right. I'm really excited for my next question because I feel like there's so much hype around it. Let's talk about gluten. And so, what is gluten? What is the effect that it has or doesn't have? And is gluten-free really better for you?
So gluten is just a type of protein that is a little bit harder for some bodies to break down. Now, it's not necessarily good or bad. Everyone's body is different, and whether or not they can break it down with ease is entirely up to their body. I think this day and age, more people are afraid that they have a gluten sensitivity or intolerance without truly knowing if they do. So for example, me personally, if I eat a slice of pizza, I'm fine. If I eat 8 slices of pizza, I'm not fine. Like my body truly will, your skin will get irritated, your stomach gets off. Now, but the truth is, if I had a gluten intolerance, it would be regardless if I had 8 slices or one. So many people claim that they have this disease where really it's like, no, you just had too much bad food, right? So if you truly want to know, the best thing to do would be for anything, whether it's gluten, dairy, anything that you're unsure of, cut it out for 21 days, preferably 30, and then slowly bring it back in and see how your body reacts to it. Because if you do that, you'll know very quickly if you have an intolerance.
Yeah. Do you get a lot of questions about gluten? A
We
lot?
get some. I mean, the benefit of what we do is, we teach people that they can eat anything.
Yeah.
So they do try and then they find out. But like I said, in moderation, most people are fine.
Yeah. And
We,
I
we, we, we have more people that actually would be, it's a dairy intolerance that they would be more, we see more of where if they have too much. And that's often because it's easier to take in larger quantities of milk, with ice cream or
right.
tea. Yeah.
What's your opinion on dairy? Is it, I mean, is it the same thing? Everybody's different or?
Yeah, I mean, my mentality and belief on almost anything nutrition wise is everyone is different and you have to test it.
Right.
I think too many people out there are like, this is good, this is bad. And I know we have people that have dairy intolerances, but if I told them to stop eating ice cream, they won't. Right? It's like, it's worth it to them. Like, I don't care that I have to go to the bathroom right after. I want to eat ice cream.
Right.
So the key is, okay, well, how can we teach you how to eat the right amount of ice cream, or what substitutions can we make? But it's no different than if we tell you you can't eat this, you're gonna go crazy.
Yeah, this is gold. This is so awesome. And I think this is like such a missing puzzle piece and link for so many people just trying to find an answer. You're trying to find something that works for them. So this is incredible. Um, what about intermittent fasting? Did I say that right?
Yeah,
What
yeah, yeah.
do you personally do that or?
At times, so intermittent fasting is basically where if we look at a typical day or any day, it's 24 hours, and we say, okay, our window of eating is X. Typically, for most people, it's from the time they wake up till the time they go to bed is when they're not necessarily they're constantly eating, but from their first bite of food till their last bite. And intermittent fasting basically just makes that window smaller. So the most common and most well known fasting window is what they would refer to as 16-8, meaning you're not eating for 16 hours of the day, so you're eating for 8. That was like the famous one from some of those movies where people get really, like the movie 300 and other ones where that's like the protocol they use.
Right.
So it's basically just, hey, you're not eating for 16 hours, which for most people looks like, okay, you wake up and you have to skip breakfast. That's really it. Maybe you stop eating a little earlier in the night. And then in 8 hours, eat. Well, the benefits of are, your body gets to rest and recover because it takes energy to digest. But what we don't do is recommend it for people to, as a way to eat less food. So we have people that do that, and I do often use it myself, but it just means, okay, I have to eat my food for the day in that smaller window.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense.
And
So
again, it's one of those things where I never push it on someone, but if someone's like, I want to try it, cool, try it. And don't force yourself to do 16 hours. There are days where, I wake up and I'm hungry and I'm like, okay, I'll do 12 hours today. Or I'll just eat when I'm hungry.
right. I think the thing that I like the most about you and what you guys do is that there's no right answer. And because I've asked you about so many different things, whether it's being able to eat junk food or the scale or gluten or intermittent fasting or so many different things, and it's like everything, you say it's individual. And I think that's so key because I think that so many people fall into the trap of thinking that they're just going the next thing or the next trend or the next thing that they hear about is going to be the thing that fixes them, instead of actually taking the time to learn about themselves and what works for them and how they operate and what, does and doesn't work for them and what they can find balance in. So I think that that's really awesome about what you're doing.
Well, and I think that that probably should carry over to more aspects of life, but not everyone's willing to do that. But I've often, even back in the day with fitness, if I would see these trainers that train people, and hour after hour, it's like the same circuit, and even back when I was like 18, 20 years old, training people, I'm like, well, that doesn't seem right because they look different and they probably have different goals. So why are they all doing the same thing?
Yeah.
It's no different than nutrition. You have to make it work for you. And I think the same thing I used to try to do it with CrossFit, and we still try to promote every time I coach is like, hey, this at the end of the day, this needs to be fun for you, and it needs to be something you're going to do tomorrow.
Right.
And the more rules I tell you, the less likely that is to happen.
Yes, and that's key, is that it has to be somewhat fun. Which kind of leads me into my next question, because I don't, I'm somebody, and I think that you would say this too, that I enjoy working out. Not every day, not all the time. I don't always feel like it, but I do enjoy working out. I think most because I know what it does for me. But my question for you is, when you have your days that you're not with it, you just don't feel like it. How do you stay motivated?
That's a good question because I'm in the middle of one of those weeks. It's tough. I mean, I, like you, enjoy working out, and I think more than I enjoy working out, I enjoy the results. I do CrossFit, so it's not easier to stay motivated, but the results are like I want to continue to be competitive with my peers. So when I'm not doing it, I realize that's not helping me.
Right.
Two things that I do when I really don't want to work out would be, one, I go to a class. So whether you do CrossFit or something else, being around, I go to North Naples CrossFit, which I love, and if I'm unmotivated, and I try to go almost exclusively to classes just because I love the vibe, community, and it does get me pushing harder. But that would be the first thing I do. And then the second thing I do if I'm home or I don't go to CrossFit would be just start for 5 minutes. And that's often enough time to make me feel better. And in the rare circumstance that even after 5 minutes I don't feel it, then I'll stop.
Yeah, for sure.
But that rarely happens. But which is why I know if it does, my body truly just needed to chill out.
Yeah, and I think that that's okay too. But I love that, because it's true, even whenever you don't feel like it, when you're around other people or you have like the accountability, maybe not even, I mean, accountability helps when other people know what you want to do, but even for yourself, like that competitive, well, they're doing it, so they're gonna pass me up. So like, even though I don't feel like it, I need to better myself, or I need to get back into it. That is true. The accountability, or the idea of people doing it too, is so key.
Absolutely. Speaking of, when are you going to go to CrossFit?
I did CrossFit a few years ago, and I loved it. I love CrossFit. I'll be there. I'll meet you there one day. You and Roz, we'll all go.
All right. Well, Olivia and Dom are usually there at 4:30. We're usually there at 4:30. It's a good time.
Hey, listen, I'm in. I love CrossFit. They've been trying to get me to go there for a long time, so I'm sure that they'd be surprised to see me there. So speaking of you and Roz, and your personal experience, how has it helped you to have a supportive spouse who is on the same track as you? And were you ever in the situation, because I know for a while I was there. I was, bettering myself, working out, eating healthier, and I was in a relationship with somebody who wasn't. So what's your advice for somebody who is, and maybe not even just your spouse, but people around you who don't support the lifestyle change that you're making? How do you deal with that?
That's tough. It's and it's hard to give because what's my answer going to be? Get a divorce. So I think obviously if you're not dating yet, or if you are in a relationship that it's not, it's simply in the dating phase, you're kind of like, that's what you need to assess. Like, how do our values align in all aspects? But health is important. And, and with that being said, it can certainly change over the years. Hey, in 5 years, I might just decide I hate this nutrition thing and want to, eat whatever I want. And, we'll have to feel that out when we get there. But I think ultimately the answer would be it has to stem from you and on the inside.
Yeah.
And for the expression I would use for most people is knowing your why.
Mm.
And if you have a strong why being, to be healthier for my kids, or, to be a good influence on the people that you're helping, it makes it a lot easier, whether or not Roz is, and don't get me wrong, while we are on board together, there are definitely times where Roz wants to go out to eat and I have to deal with it and either go out to eat or not and make a decision there. Or, I'll grab a handful of something mindlessly and she has to either decide to do the same or to let me know that I'm making a bad decision.
Right. Yeah.
So you have those balances, but it's a challenge. And I think, helping your significant other understand why you're doing it helps too. We work with plenty of people who, be it the husband or wife, is really on board and really working hard, and they're just not into it.
Right.
And yeah, there are times where it causes a lot of stress, but there are also times we've seen. I was just in Oklahoma last week, and one of our most successful clients, Molly, her husband is doing it also now.
Oh, that's so cool.
And he's like me, a former wrestler, and he just loves it because but it's like anything at first. I think typically we work with the woman first. We work with more women, and they're like making these changes. They see the videos of me and Roz, and I'm sure the guys are like, "Who are these two?" And I don't believe them.
My life.
So you have to do that, and then luckily for me, it's probably not luckily. It's probably by design that I've typically always had dated women that also are into health and fitness.
Right.
And and certainly we're with women that weren't into CrossFit, but they had their own fitness passion themselves. So
that's so true.
And not make people feel bad that they don't believe in the same things.
Right. And I love that you said that you have to make the decision on the inside. You have to know your why, because whether it is, not having a supportive spouse or going to work and not having a supportive environment or family functions, whatever it might be, you're not doing it for anybody else. You're doing it for you, and you know why you're doing it, and that's all that matters.
Exactly.
Together. Well, that's awesome. I have a question I'm going to throw at you, and then I'm going to finish up and ask you a final question. But so you've traveled, and I love that your goal and what you guys do is you try to find the best donuts, right? So first of all, number one, what's the best donut ever? And number two, since I'm local, where's the best donuts in Naples?
That's probably the toughest question you've asked me. The easy one is the best donut in Naples. You're limited on options.
Yes.
Okay,
that's why I'm wondering. I'm like, where can we go to get great donuts here?
Trackside in Bonita, which is just off of 75, has great donuts. Standard type donuts. I really do love their donuts. So I would highly recommend that. And then the other option is Peace Lovin' Donuts, which is further downtown in Naples, but they're different. They're smaller. They're cake donuts, which they're very good, but I just don't love cake donuts as much as you. So I would head to Trackside. Now, if you're willing to take a 2.5-hour drive and you head to Tampa, you can go to Jupiter Donuts.
Jupiter Donuts.
That's and they're a chain. So they're like a small chain. So there's a couple other locations. They may have a closer one than Tampa. And then if you want to go to Miami, you can go to Mojo Donuts or the Salty Donut.
I'm going to add those to my list. That's awesome.
So those are like the one spot that we went to that I really loved was a place in it was in New Haven, Connecticut. I forget the name of it. but it was really awesome donuts.
Yeah,
I have to look
that
it
is
up.
awesome. All right, and so this lawnmower is kind of like killing it over here. But my final question for you is, what is one overall big message that you want to get out to the world?
I'd say the biggest message to get out would simply be if what you're doing isn't working, you need to make a change.
Yes.
And, for so many of us, it's like, oh, this isn't working, but I'll keep trying, or I'll do something similar. It's like a lot of what we learned in the past is not true. And try something different.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to wake up obese the next day if you try something new.
Right.
And it could ultimately change your life.
Yeah, and I love that. It's so simple. If what you're doing isn't working, try something different.
It's the expression we use is if nothing changes, nothing changes.
Oh, that's so good.
So yeah, I'd say our biggest message is simplicity, I think, and that's where people often ask, how are you different? In the sense that we just keep it simple.
You're just
And and I don't do anything different. People may think, well, what do you do? I'm like, exactly what I'm telling you.
yeah, and I think that's key too, because every life is so complex. If people have so many things going on, that if they think that something is too hard or too time consuming, whatever it might be, they never even think to take the time to add it to their schedule. So keep it simple. I love it. Well, where can we find you and Roz, and where can we find you guys?
Well, other than our house in Naples, you can go online and go to ownyoureating.com. I mean, that's probably the best place to find us. And then any type of social media, we're on there typically as at Own Your Eating.
Awesome.
So, and they're all linked on our website.
Perfect. Cool. So we'll go to ownyoureating.com. This has been so incredible. You're so knowledgeable, and I can just tell the heart and passion behind what you guys do. So thank you so much for taking the time to do this. And I hope that everybody who listens to this goes and checks out what you do, because obviously it's working, it's simple, and you're doing something right. So.
Well, thank you very much for having us. It's great to virtually meet you and look forward to seeing you at the box.
Yes, I'll see you guys there. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.